Okay, so one of my little Sunday morning trips today, and I'm back up to BBC Radio Gloucestershire, and you can see behind there the BBC studio. I'm just about to go in there to record another piece on the Vernon Harwood show, which is broadcast over Radio Somerset and Radio Gloucestershire on a Sunday morning. I've now got a fairly regular slot on there, so I'm kind of turn up here every 2 or 3 months and do a little piece talking about just general kind of farming and what my life's like. So today I'm not quite sure what we're going to be talking about, but I've got a fair idea. It's probably about the milk price again, which is just appalling. Hopefully we'll talk about the pink bales that have been wrapped for breast cancer, and of various other topics. I mean, there's only a certain amount of time that we've got because it's a busy show, so we'll wait and see how it goes. But what I'll do now is I'll just switch this off, and I'll patch in on the my YouTube broadcast, the radio bit. So anyway, if you leave this on now, you can hear what we've been talking about. Cheers.
Now, if you've ever thought to yourself, I'd really like a bit of sunshine, I'd like a bit of decent weather, then what you need to do is you need to get yourself a countryside radio programme and invite Rich Cornock on, because he's a dairy farmer from Titherington, and every time he comes in, it's gorgeous weather. What's going on?
The sun's always shining for you, Vernon, isn't it?
Very nice. Now, I must talk to you, there's lots to talk to you about, but I must talk to you about this phenomenon of pink bales. Out in the fields, in the summer months, we're used to seeing the black plastic bale wraps. But you did something very different. What's that about?
Well, I can't take any credit for this. I was part of the process, if you like. And it's a lovely, lovely story. It's nice to have positive farming stories, because you do hear quite a lot of negative. But what happened is we have a contractor that comes in and wraps our bales for us every year, and the contractor's got a Facebook page. Her name's Claire Sampson. She runs it, the Facebook page, and she'd been sort of putting hints in about this plastic wrap coming, pink plastic wrap, and I was like, what's this all about then? I didn't know quite what she meant. Thought she was having a bit of an April Fool's joke, to be honest. And then next thing I knew, there was a picture of Terry the tractor driver leaning on a pallet. Good old Terry leaning on a pallet of pink wrap. And I still didn't quite get what this was about. And she was saying the pink wrap's coming this week. Anyway, lo and behold, the pink wrap did arrive, and we had 34 bales of silage bales wrapped in pink plastic. Well, actually, what it turns out, it's all in aid of breast cancer. A fantastic cause. And the story is that basically last year in New Zealand, a wrap company was asked if they could do something for breast cancer. So they decided to create this pink wrap. That idea has now come to the UK, and basically for every bale that is wrapped in pink plastic, a donation is made to breast cancer. It's a fantastic cause. It also it's a positive, nice thing to do, isn't
Well, it makes you stop and stare at the field, doesn't it, for a start?
It's a funny sight when you see it. I mean, we said 34 bales plonks is like something out from outer space. They're neon pink as well. They're not a subtle pink.
Yeah, no, I saw them.
They're very in-your-face pink. And we had lots of comments.
It makes Peppa Pig look subtle, doesn't it?
Do you know what was even better? A lady just came into the farm and said, I'd like to go out and take some photographs of the pink bales for the Turner Prize. And she was taking someone out there to do some modelling.
You were definitely being wound up there.
Well, I don't know about that, but we got the... I'd say the best thing as well, it's nice, the kids thought it was brilliant. We went out there with some marker pens and drew all over them, Peppa Pig pictures and things all over them. But, I mean, it's a serious message, you need to do something about breast cancer, and it affects everyone. The farming community is quite good at pulling together to help people, but this is a way you can help someone without actually doing, anything too energetic. I don't want to run down the London Marathon dressed as a banana, but what I do is help out with something like this.
Now, that I would pay money for.
Yeah.
Any ideas how much you raised or how much has been raised across the country?
I mean, I'm not involved with the fundraising because Claire Sampson is buying the wrap, and the donations go through the purchaser of the wrap, so she's involved with that. But so I don't know. I mean, I presume the company, the wrap company, will issue a price how much they've raised. Yeah.
End of the season, we're bound to get a figure.
What is interesting is this wrap has become so popular they've sold out. I don't think you can get any more now for this year.
Amazing.
Because they brought it out as a limited supply, but I presume to think, how will this take off?
It's one of those things you can't really use again either,
Well, that's right. But, I mean, if you don't sell it, no one's going to want pink wrap for anything else, are they?
Yeah, so, yes,
I think they were cautious, but they've actually sold out. Claire had people ringing her up asking if they could buy a roll of wrap off her.
That's amazing.
She was only allowed 15 rolls herself, and one roll does, I think, about 25 bales.
Well done, Claire. Brilliant. Good stuff.
Claire.
So if you see any pink bales, you know what that's it's all about.
Yeah.
If you sort of screech to a halt in the car, wondering what's going on. Now, we know that farmers these days do an awful lot for conservation. Tell me about the barn owls on the farm.
Oh, this is the nice story as well. It's I do like a good story, Vernon. I do like a good message, positive message. Barn owls, I expect you probably don't see that many of them, do you? They're not like that common a bird. And certainly from my point of view, when I was a kid, there were none on the farm. Partly because problems, things like people were talking about. I heard Alan Titchmarsh talking about the sprays that people used. In the 60s, people weren't that worried, were they? They chucked around any old stuff, and things like DDT were a real problem for barn owls. They caused a problem in the food chain, and the end result was that they ate things in the food chain that caused them to lay soft-shelled eggs because they'd been exposed to DDT. Thankfully, these sort of chemicals were withdrawn. DDT went out from the UK in 1984, but also our management of the countryside's got better to encourage places for them to live, and put up things like barn owl boxes. And on our farm, the barn owls went in the 60s. When Dad remembers them, they sort of disappeared, really. And from my point of view, I've been on the farm 30-odd years, never seen a barn owl.
That's incredible, isn't it?
I've never seen one. I've seen one in wild. I'm not in the wild. In a sort of an aviary somewhere on display. And then one day, Vernon, this is a brilliant thing. About 7 years ago, I was working in a field, and I looked up in a tree, and I saw a barn owl, and I couldn't believe it. And I went and told my dad, and he said, "No, I think you saw a seagull." But it wasn't. And since that time, the barn owls have come back to the farm, and we've got a little isolated barn further away from the farmhouse. We put some nesting box up there, and I had 2 fledglings, a couple of years ago. Anyway, it had gone a bit quiet, and we knew they were about, but we didn't know what was going on. And we had a visit from the Hawk and Owl Trust. Now, the Hawk and Owl Trust are really good at looking after barn owl boxes and other nesting boxes. And what they do is they come around every now and then, do a survey, and just check what's in these boxes and if they're, being used by anything. Because sometimes you get squirrels that go into it.
Well, all sorts, of course, yeah.
Yeah. So what they did, they're very careful. They know what they're doing. They go up there and they block the end of the box off so anything in there can't escape. But it also darkens it to give it a bit more relaxing atmosphere. And they put a little camera in. And lo and behold, this nesting box that was in the barn this summer and I thought was empty actually had a barn owl fledgling in it.
Well, that's a wonderful story.
It's lovely because the thing is, you can walk by these things; they're very quiet, and you don't think there's anything going on. Yet up 30 foot above us is a barn owl hatching. And so I know now the barn owls are breeding on the farm again, which is a lovely, lovely thing, because they aren't that common, and they're a beautiful thing to see.
I know the Wildlife Trust have been working very hard with barn owl box schemes and all the rest of it. We've got more news from the farm with Rich on the way in a few moments' time. We'll talk about farm walks and crazy cows, and if you saw the front page of yesterday's Western Daily Press, you'll know that more milk protests have been taking place. We'll talk a little bit more about that, all on the way, coming up in the next 15 minutes.
Sunday mornings mean
rural affairs,
country matters,
wildlife,
food and farming.
On FM and 14:13 AM, let's take a look at Gloucestershire's weather forecast. Not a bad afternoon, plenty of sunshine, a warm day as well, 24.75. Monday starts dry, cloud, outbreaks of showery rain, and as the morning goes on, more rain and drizzle. Certainly by breakfast time, it's not going to be too good. Sunny intervals later on tomorrow. Top temperature tomorrow is 72 Fahrenheit. Then Tuesday, a fresher day, breezy, sunny spells and showers. It's going to be breezy on Wednesday as well with some rain. Thursday's not so bad though, drier and slightly warmer. My studio guest today is the man who calls himself the Funky Farmer. It's not much that's funky around here, so he's about it. Rich Cornock, who got a dairy farm at Titherington. Let's talk about milk prices and particularly milk protests back in the news, because the front page of the Western Daily Press reporting a protest at some supermarkets in the region with farmers and their friends going into supermarkets, loading trolleys with all the milk on the shelves, wheeling the trolleys to the door, to the tills, and then abandoning them. An interesting protest, not the sort of protest we've seen before.
Well, it's a very positive protest because it doesn't actually cause anyone any harm, does it? It's not burning tyres on the motorway and holding up your holiday for 3 months or whatever, I think it's just born of frustration.
I mean, we ought to say that the police were called and decided to take no action.
No, because I don't think there was actually any criminal damage. Really, what they did is they moved the milk from one part of the store to the other. And I know for
it's a protest of inconvenience and frustration more than anything.
And the other thing is I know that a couple of bottles were broken, but what they did, they put the money for them on the checkout and left the bottles there. So if there's any damage, they paid for it. it's born of frustration, really. I think, there's no reason that any farmer would want to go ahead and go into a supermarket and strip the shelves of milk to make this protest. But realistically, we are at a crisis point where the milk price is being pushed down so low that it's just almost impossible to make a business out of dairy farming now. And you've got to wonder why, really, haven't you? Because we're chucking milk on the supermarket at a ridiculously low price, cheaper than bottled water, and yet they're saying they can't afford to pay more money because of the world market.
Well, I was going to say, but that is what the suppliers that will say, not the suppliers, but the processors will say, and the supermarkets will say that, you can look at the situation in the British Isles, that's fine, but actually milk is an international commodity.
It is, but the thing is, if you're buying your milk in a supermarket and putting it on your cornflakes and it's produced up the road, then why are you worrying about the world market price? I find that very odd, really. I can understand it if you're importing again, but we're not importing fresh milk, not that I know of anyway. So why can you argue that the world market is affecting that?
Do you think this protest will just be a flash in the pan? Because I imagine even now the supermarkets are working out how they can thwart any more protests like that.
Quite possibly, but I mean, this could lead to other protests. I don't know what, I'm not part of a protest myself, but I think more than anything, it's just raising awareness of what's going on. And
pretty annoying for other shoppers though who want to buy milk, and actually it's all in trolleys by the tills.
Well, it's easier, isn't it? You haven't got to walk very far; it's right by the till. You can pick it up there and go. There's no way that any shopper's going to miss out on their milk. When they did this protest, it was just before closing time, and I know for a fact that the supermarkets keep trolleys out the back in their fridge. They don't run on a basis of what's on display as the only milk they've got. It would inconvenience the supermarket, I'm sure of that, but maybe that's the point, because how inconvenient is a British dairy farmer made when there's no money coming in to pay for replacement of machinery and things like that? There's a lot more inconvenience than a few trolleys of milk dumped by the checkout. And realistically, it's time that something was done about this. I personally, and I'm sure every other dairy farmer, is sick of hearing, we can't do anything about this, it's world markets. We've heard this story too long, really.
Well, diversification has been something in British farming for years, though, and if it's not making any money, is the message to go do something else?
Absolutely, do something else to raise more money, but your core business is usually the thing you're good at, whether it's beef or dairy, what you cannot just chuck away your core business that you've built up over years and years and just go and do a few holiday homes here and there sort of thing. I mean, what is very frustrating is that, and I'm all for fair trade products, but we've got a system in this country where we've got fair trade products for imported goods. You can go buy a fair trade bar of chocolate, yet there's no fair trade for British farmers. Okay, maybe that brand is something that's separate, but maybe
you can't equate the two, though, can you? You can't support. You can't talk about support for farmers in emerging communities around the world in third world countries and equate that to farmers in the West country.
Well, we can, because realistically there should be fair trade for foreign farmers, but there also be fair play for British farmers. And realistically there needs to be...
It's fair play, but you can't equate the two. The circumstances are totally different.
The circumstances are different, and totally, that's fair trade, so we keep that separate. But what about fair play for British farmers? Why isn't there a logo on cheese and dairy products, and beef products saying fair play, so that the British public know that if they pick something up, that farmer has been paid a fair price? I think that's not much to ask, really.
Now let's talk on the subject of cattle. Let's talk about one of your wayward cows.
Crazy cows
from the Funky Farmer.
Sorry, we're off the milk now, but we're back onto still on milk a little bit, and this is something that probably people don't think about, but cows don't always stick in a field, and this week one of ours didn't. I was lying in bed, like you like to do every now and then, got a phone call. It was 5 to 6 in the mornings with a neighbour saying, we just looked out the window and there's some cows on the lawn, and I just like, oops. What's actually the worst phone call any dairy farmer can get is actually there's cows on the road, which is really, really worrying. Cows on the lawn, you think, well, I haven't got to rush too fast because they would probably just eat their cabbages. But I did bomb down there and be greeted by a massive pile of cow muck on their lawn. And luckily, by the time I got there, they'd managed to shoo the cow back into the field. But what it had done is it had been, when we had some heavy rain, I think it was Sunday night, they'd all sheltered under the hedge away from the rain, and then the action of them all sheltering, they pushed against the fence, and one of the fence posts had snapped off, and one just galloped through into their garden. I was very lucky it wasn't 70 and it was just one. But yeah, that's crazy cows for you. We've had worse than that, mind. I've had them up the road.
I'm sure. Did this particular cow have a name?
It was 819. I won't forget that.
819, yeah. You're not sentimental, are you?
Well, they have got names. My dad names all our cows, but we also freeze brand them for ID purposes, and it was 819. But I tell you what, the other thing as well, I came to work one morning, because I live off the farm, my parents live in the farmhouse, just driving to work, and I thought, that's a bit odd, there's some cow muck in the middle of the road there, right outside the pub, and that's probably about a quarter of a mile from the farm, and that's slightly worrying, because I'm thinking, which cows are those? Got into the farmyard, and what had happened, my dad had just brought the cows round for milking, and about 60 of them, and decided to bolt through a chain we put across to stop them getting out. They'd gone through the chain up the road, got as far as the pub, decided they didn't like the view, and turned around and gone back into the farmyard, but they'd left a present on the road.
Nice.
So it was lucky we got homing cows.
Yeah, very good, very good. Now, you've got a YouTube channel. You are the Funky Farmer, of course, on YouTube. And you've had incredible success at this. Anybody who thinks that nobody's interested in farming, think again.
It's really nice, actually. I did set up a YouTube channel about 2 years ago. I started recording videos of myself on the farm, just as a bit of a hobby, really. And this week I hit 10,000 subscribers to the channel.
Congratulations.
Well, it's really nice because there are a lot of people who are interested in this sort of programme. They like to see the reality of farming. Hopefully what I'm showing on the Funky Farmer channel is not just a kind of slick, modern way of doing farming, but kind of like a little farm like us who's just trying their best. In the videos I put on this week, I was just servicing a tractor, changing the oil filter, and I didn't really know what I was doing, to be honest, but I thought I'd have a go. I managed to complete it. The tractor still started, and there's videos to show it. But there's also videos of my children on there, going out, getting seeing the hay bales, a bit of wildlife. It's an easy access way of seeing British farming without it being a kind of show-off thing.
All you need to do is look for The Funky
Farmer on YouTube.
Brilliant. Congratulations on that one. Always lovely to see you. Thanks for bringing the sun, as always.
I'll try in November.
See you soon. Thanks, Rich. Rich Cornock there. He's a dairy farmer from Titherington. He is The Funky Farmer.